Peace, salam be upon the Ummah of Muhammad from the Caliph of Allah. O people! Until now, you have not guided the hadiths of our Prophet yourself. For this reason, you believed every liar trying to falsify us with imitation as Mahdi Messiah. These thousands of perverts wandering around reduce the importance of this sacred case by the guidance of the devil. Try to make the brains appear Mahdiya as a perversion and aberration. They try to create perception in your minds. For a long time, regardless of the Quran and Hadith, you thought that the wrong interpretation of the scholars who made up religion to their own belief was also true. For this reason, some of you are believed that we will never come. Some of you have been deceived by the lie that we will come after a long time despite hundreds of hadiths. Some of you also claim that we were retreated the sky. He steps on your carpets, attends your meetings, you don't know him until he introduces himself. If you had read this hadith, you would definitely know that we would introduce ourselves to you when the time comes. In this period when the scholars perished, quoted hadiths by the Ahlul Bayt and the other companions of Prophet Muhammad. If you had believed in the absolute surrender of these hadiths and had researched the right, with hundreds of proofs, it is the miraculous person called the Hujjatullah. You would know that will departure miraculously in Istanbul with all the particular details in Hadith-i Sharifs. Now, most of you are in surprise and doubt, because you did not guide the Prophet Muhammad to yourself. Resolute Ikram is not only a guide from 1440 years ago, but with all the great Hadith Sharifs that illuminate every century. He guides all times from that day until the apocalypse. In this period when the devil is turning your minds upside down, to distinguish between right and wrong, Prophet Muhammad counted too many features that there would be no second person on earth, because Allah has mercy. In order to you don't lose your way with the devastation of the devil and his supporters. These hadiths, the Ahlul Bayt Imams, companions and past scholars, have been reached to this day with the sacrifice and efforts them. But you have ignored them and you have not really believed. However, Resolute Ikram, with thousands of hadiths, from his name, father's name, son's name, birth and outcropping signs, special signs in his body, appearance and life signs, has counted so many features that could not come together in a second person without exception. All of them are for you to distinguish between right and wrong. The Prophet Muhammad always said the truth. But you have guided the people who try to deny and ignore the Prophet, and the oppressors who recklessly comment on Islam. Today, without hesitation in his faith, fearlessly guiding the Quran and Hadiths, who believed in Allah and His Prophet in full surrender, a small community, without hesitation, cried out to Ummah that we will definitely come this year. For this reason, some people who did not realize that they were filled with incorrect information and some poorly believing communities, some people who are not aware of this, embarked on pressure and mocking our fellow believers for a long time. Allah always tests believers. Mahdi comes out at a time when the hopes are cut, in accordance with this hadith. Because of the test, until the end of this year, which is the end of time, Allah did not allow us to come out spiritually. My brothers, who are oppressed, denied, and firmly believing in Allah, today they will experience the victory of believing in Allah and His Prophet with absolute surrender. And they will set a good example for Muslims because of their faith in front of the Mahdi movement. The hope of all the oppressed in the world today will grow. Believers should know that everything heralded by Allah and the Prophet happened without exception, and everything will happen without exception. We are at the beginning of the day they will see. O people! Do not act with suspicion, bad thinking, prejudice and arrogance, and listen to the devil's delusions. Instead of closing your eyes and ears to the truth, investigate and question the truth. In recent years, just because you cannot question the truth with prejudice, Satan has put every person he hits as a scholar or a Mahdi. Devil tries to confuse you, to blur your minds. You should have understood that our moment of departure came from here. Resolute Ikram, so that people could not deny our moment of departure, said hundreds of hadiths that took place just in time. Despite the fact that all of the hadiths have taken place, and that the Imam of the previous century, Ustad, has been informed, in ordeal, in agony, warned and prepared people. Either the scholars of the Ummah have denied the Imam of the Ustad and made up their own Imams, or the scholars who said that they are subject to the Ustad Bediüzzaman and distorted after reading what the Ustad said. Despite hundreds of miracles and warnings of the Imam of the century, they heard the devil's whispers and hid the right from you. Scholars of this time approached destruction with their distortion. Scholars who could not afford to change the Quran denied hadiths, trying to create a religion without a prophet or with incorrect comments. They tried to put dynamite in Islam, but the truth cannot be hidden. Quran and hadiths illuminate every century with their perfection. Do you think that the falsifications you made will not be revealed? Let's say you didn't deny all the hadiths. If a person says he did not say a hadith that the Prophet said, he denies the Prophet and gets out of Islam. Today, the biggest danger is to overcome the limit by saying that weak hadith, this later hadith. Today, if Allah did not extend the time with the mercy of Allah, all humanity would be destroyed because of the sedition that these scholars put into society. We openly share the details. Examine them and witness what the Prophet always said correctly, and the miracles of Islam and the perfection of hadiths. O people! We, Ahlul Bayt, always have trouble, a lot of suffering. We have seen trouble, mischief, abductions and exiles. We made a lot of sacrifice for Islam. We gave up so much so that Islam does not break up. My grandfather Hassan left the caliphate for the unity of Islam. My grandfather Hussein died in Karbala for the Ummah. My grandfather Hassan Askari was a martyr at a young age, so that the oppressors could not interfere, and the trackers could not find and trace them. Allah hide our lineage and because not be known until the moment of departure. My grandfather Muhammad Hassan left apart from his mother when he was a child. Today, as a counterpart to many sacrifices of them and the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, after an intense trial period mentioned by the Prophet, and after the encounter with Khanishenti of the Diker Jewish Dajjal, with the exclamation heard at the beginning of 2018. After the period of occultation, the last caliphate authority was given as we were promised by the Lord of the worlds. O people of the Ummah! We know there are many questions that you expect to be answered in your mind and heart. Your mind has long been confused by contradicting teachers and scholars or perverted people speaking for religion. It is not only me who only emerge from the signs of great apocalypse. From Dabbit al-Ars, Holy Testament Kafir, the Seal of Solomon, Messiah Dajjal, wisdom in the wand of the Prophet Moses, all of which has appeared today. Lessons about all of them in a short time. It will be shown to you shortly in the form of exemplary lessons where everything that the Prophet informed. World of scholars and sheikhs community. Today is not a day to see each other as infidels, to curse each other, to arrogance and to insist on your erroneous information. Today is the day of unity. Until now, you have broken the Ummah into pieces by not seeing your own mistakes but counting others as infidels. Due to this fragmentation, the children of Muslims are brutally murdered all over the world. Their sustenance is cruelly exploited. Dirty hands are touching the women's privacy. Because of your hatred and hostility towards each other. There were a lot of perverts and cruel people who were cruel in the name of religion. Besides, the children of this Ummah are going to kill each other in the name of sect or racism, following ignorant, instead of seeking Allah. Scholars, although you have an excellent source of Quran and Hadith as a guide, you did not understand Allah properly and did not state the miracle of Islam to people. Because you are away from knowledge and faith, you have created a world that has brainwashed with subliminal messages of non-believing societies, who consider immorality a necessity of life. While there is an answer to every question in Islam, you have doubted humanity with the contradictory answers you gave to people and destroyed Muslims. Some people today reject 12 Imams, or the other, the person sent by Allah to every century. Instead of finding the right, someone prefers to believe in some of the hadiths and refute some of them. Islam is not such a thing. Islam is a perfect whole from beginning to end. Every verse, every hadith is a miracle, it cannot be hidden. Can those who do not understand and reject the hadiths today, who are not even afraid to deny their prophet, find peace? Whatever the scholars of a society are, its people. Today, because ignorance of scholars to accept according to their pleasure. Hypocrite who thinks he is a Muslim, although he was shirk who think own selves takva person, he thinks witchcraft and amulet as knowledge. He thinks religion is cruelty and persecution, he thinks that reality is to deny the Prophet. There is a community that thinks interest and other haram is halal. The fact that the scholars of the community are far from the truth causes their perdition. If you scholars really believed in Allah and His Prophet, If you would guide the moral of our Prophet to yourself, all of you will come together. Instead of denying each other, it investigates the right, you accepted the right thing, you gave up the wrong one. In this way, you would find the right, you would not rely on it, you would not shatter the unity of the Ummah. Behind the Prophet of Allah, 313 brave men who had guided his morality had reached the mercy that covered the world. Today, scholars who say that they are doing the Prophet's profession, without the morality of the Prophet, then there are no Muslims on earth today. Today, you scholars, have destroyed religion, knowledge, hid true signs. Due to ignorantly participating in religion, superstition, bid'ah and comments, Islam was interrupted. Because of you, our children are either destroyed by subliminal messages of irreligious societies, or they were murdered under the bomb of a tyrant. Satan has made people all over the world slaves of his own system. All of these are because you are distanced from science and technique. And you have guided ignorance instead of knowledge, even though Islam commanded science. Today, clergymen expecting their interests with money ambitions and not from Allah, but from people, they turned Islam into a beggar religion. Despite a book that read, the first command, a prophet who ordered the knowledge, those who postpone the emphasis of love and compassion in Islam, they portrayed Allah's religion as blood, brutality and ignorance in the world. In spite of the hadiths of the Quran and the compassion and mercy of Islam, with their excellent miracles, instead of giving people the lessons about the Quran and hadiths, you just taught to read the Quran like a song and folk song. You have raised Muslims far from the truth. If scholars had not been arrogant, they would have questioned their own defects instead of finding defects in someone else. There would be no sectarian conflict, the unity of the Ummah would not be destroyed today. Today, hard-hearted oppressors like Daesh could not portray Islam as brutality, and could not persecute people in the name of Allah. No one would dare to distort the religion of Allah if you had raised a truly believing generation. Due to your misrepresentation of hostility and regardless of right to each other. Today, denying fate, denying hadiths from Ahlul Bayt and other scholars, there would be no community that denied the Miraj, denying the coming of the Prophet Jesus and our departure. In all these troubles that happen to Muslims all over the world, in the tear of a child, an oppressed woman, the scholars of the Ummah have the first degree crime and responsibility. For this reason, Prophet Muhammad, the worst people under the firmament that day are the scholars of the Ummah. The fitna came out of them, and it will return to them. In the age of information and technology we are in, we can reach every home with divine mercy. While the jihad who think that they kill the innocent are wandering around in the guise of Muslim, they try to portray Islam as a religion of blood and savagery. However, if they look at the hadiths of the Prophet, they will see the technology of today in a tremendous way. They will realize that the movement in the end times is not with the sword, but with knowledge. But an ignorant clan hadith interpreting hadiths in an extraordinary fantastic style. Instead of seeing today's technology clearly, serve the devil with a fairy tale style. They cover the miracle of Islam. They are preparing the ground for the deviant by trying to make the religion of Islam look like a dream religion. How the big budget films prepared with the whisper of Satan. You can see how Mahdi and Dajjal are telling in a fantastic way. The people who wrote these films, the scholars who described the hadiths like the fantastic world are fed by the same devil's whisper. Despite hundreds of hadiths, the scholars covered by ignorance adopted to accept some of religion and to reject. Although our departure place is shown as Istanbul, the last caliphate centered directly and indirectly with dozens of hadiths. A group of black ignorant scholars insist that we are going out of Mecca and continue their mistakes and mislead the Ummah. They seem to serve Islam who are hostile to Islam. They become a curtain before Allah completes His light. Despite the insistence that our name and father's name will be appropriate and successful as stated in the hadiths of the Prophet, although he insistently said that it is kept confidential until the time of departure as a reason for testing, did they ever read and understand the hadith that they exposed the society with erroneous information? Rather than understanding and realizing Islam, it is based only on memorization. Repeating the mistakes made, not using his mind, and not understanding the Quran and hadiths, even though they read them. They raised a society exactly as the devil intended. As a result, scholars and people who created the world as a Muslim but who were away from the Islamic circle were formed. Allah said, "Would you not mind? Don't you think? Can't you question?" As Allah constantly says. You invite people to blind faith, not to reason, to question, and to create a suspicious faith in the hearts of people and prepare the ground for their demolition. How can you be believing in one hadith and denying others? Or how dare you convey what you don't understand as if you understood it? Aren't you afraid to comment according to your belief? Are you not ashamed of the possibility of denying Allah and His Prophet? Miraculously details of the person who will come in the end times. Although it was transferred from the Prophet Muhammad to Ali and the information was preserved by inheritance from his sons, you have never mentioned the details about King Mahdi by counting the hadiths from my ancestors. For this reason, the puppets, which the devil possession, walk around as Mahdi and make people's minds blur. You have concealed the right. You have always looked at religion with suspicion. In the account, you say that you love Ahlul Bayt, but you ignore everything my ancestors conveyed and count lies. You supposedly love us, actually you beat us with your heart. The other part of you are trying to add things that are not in religion to it by saying that they love us. My grandfather, Ali, who has all the secrets about me, quoted hadith. If you respected 11 Imams and the views of scholars sent every century, if you researched them, in the first quarter of 1400, you knew that we would be on the world stage and that we would be here today. And that we would be in front of you with all the details and miracles of the hadiths told to them. And in this process, you would prepare for the unity of Islam. Since you doubted Islam, you all opted for a different way. You just sponge on the back of religion. Clergymen of the end times. You thought it was the necessity of religion to be divided into groups, to be supporter, separation and hostility. If we were united, which cruel in the world could dare to burn children and women alive, to exploit people, to hurl abuse at Allah and the Prophet, to burn the Quran and to attack Muslims? You are responsible for these. Due to your erroneous and reckless views, he murdered his brother in the name of sectarianism and racism. However, while Islam cried out love, compassion, and unity, what could you not share and have made your brother enemy? What did you not find in the Quran and the Hadith? You stubbornly fake up something instead of looking for the right. Everything that supported you as a miracle was present in the Quran and Hadiths with divine mercy, but you guys, some of you believe some of them. Deny some of it on your own mind. You denied some of them even though you did not understand. If you were truly believers, you would know that everything that the Prophet said would be absolute. Instead of being divided and fragmented, you would call people to brotherhood by looking at people with love and affection. While there were scholars preparing for this case a century ago, in the horrifying moment of the end times, today's scholars have gone astray. Although the Risale-i-Nur they read cried out, heralded our departure, and prepared a pioneering ground, based on the belief that they bent and twisted what they read. They denied the Quran and the Hadiths and the Ustad. Mahdi, the last king sent to the end times, is Ustad, and they slandered that blessed person and exceeded the limit. On the other hand, by disrupting our departure and the final dawah of religion, they made hundreds of hadiths ineffective and removed people from the line of faith. Today, behind all the troubles experienced by Risale-i-Nur groups, there is a reflection of the punishment of this distortion. Today, as Resolute Ikram said to my grandfather Ali, some people are trying to put things that are not in religion. Religion over religion through Ahlul Bayt, the other part is denying the hadiths coming from the Ahlul Bayt, counting lies and thinking badly against us. Were not my grandfather Ali and his children the Imams of this Ummah? You have shamelessly regarded all the hadiths related to him and his sons, King Mahdi. You never mentioned. However, in the hadiths quoted by the Ahlul Bayt, there was such a magnificent detail that your mind did not understand the possibility of all of them being found in a person. You did not trust Allah's miracles. So many detailed features were counted. From birth year to birthday, from the name, to the name of the child, from 10 special signs on his body. Also the detailed appearance, so that the Ummah can guide, distinguish between right and wrong. By ignoring them, you fought a war against Allah and His Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. Are there ancestors who will convey the most important information about a person? Or are there other sources that you ignored what my ancestors said? Or you made up something about us by saying things my ancestors did not convey? These hadiths were manifestation of Allah's mercy, but you did not understand. Lying without understanding the hadiths, making things up your mind, took you and the Ummah out of the way. The scholars of the Ummah likened these people to themselves. Today, mosques are prospered with their outer appearance, but there is no unbeliever and the true way. People were unwittingly removed from the right, as the devil approached from the right. Millions of people emerged that they did not deny with their tongue, that they denied with their hearts. As people see from you, they speak without fear of Allah. Just like you, they take the hadith that suits their own mind and deny the hadiths by saying that it is incompatible, weak and apocryphal. You have been a bad guy to people, and for this reason you found us on your opposite side today. Sow the wind, reap the whirlwind, because you have shattered the unity of Islam with this recklessness. The Muslims are being harassed by demonized and vile people in all four corners of the world and in the land. These lands are not the lands of the Sufyans, the Pharaohs, the Nemruts, the commanders and teachers who have deified their nafs. These lands are the lands of a community that has served the religion of Allah for 1,000 years and has given its riches, children and lives without hesitation. In return for these services they have done, the great sanjak of Islam will be carried from these lands to the whole world by their sons' hands as divine mercy. You scholars were scared. For the 3-cent penny world interest, you hid the Sufyans. You did nothing when the children were destroyed. You have hidden the right to declare your own teacher's cup. Don't you know that those who conceal the right will be curbed from their necks in hell? Today, you hid our departure. How did you ignore thousands of hadiths without any embarrassment? Because you really did not believe in the Prophet. There is no hesitation and doubt in faith. Faith is devotion to unconditional miracle and evidence. What difference do you have from the polytheists who did not believe that the Prophet went to Miraj because he did not see it? Though all the signs of the coming of the Mahdi took place in the first quarter of 1400 between 1980 and 1986. You thought we would never come because you did not see us. Have you ever thought of the life of this Ummah a little over 1500? Whereas, if you were to look at the other conveyance, you would realize that there was little time left for our departure, and that we would be at the center of the last caliphate at the end of time. How could you be so blind? As in the hadith, when the number of Basmala 19 comes to the end of time, right after the big curse, when earthquakes multiply, when Syria is devastated, when 2 bridges are blocked, there are signs in the sun. When there is bloody lunar eclipse, and many more, even though you see that we're going to debut with events like these. Didn't you understand, or was it heavy to say the right? The community of scholars who break the union, who are nourished by the religion of Allah. How many more children being deaf will you be watching? How many more will you ignore the cry of the oppressed? How many more women will be contaminated by the cruel? How long will you insist on your erroneous information? As long as I live, I will never allow you to destroy the unity of Islam and harm the Muslims, and to expose the society with the wrong information that you made up and added to religion. The world is unwary from Allah. While people are disappearing under the claw of the devil, even thousands of miracles have witnessed the truth. And even Muslims who have to spread mercy, they have forgotten Islam, stopped spreading Islam. They think to take people to their communities, sects and groups who suppose finding the right way. You have influenced people so much that you have brainwashed so much with subliminal games that there are people who think of leaving their group, seeking and questioning the right, getting out of religion. Today, there is a community that sees the sorcery, goddess, muskism, a science, a part of religion that is cursed by Allah. I am the last remnant of Allah on earth, the 12th Imam of Allah, Abul Qasim, King Muhammad Mustafa. I cannot remain silent to the screams of women, children and innocents of the Ummah. You all know this. The religion of Allah is no longer derelict. Muslims are not unprotected. Today, the caliphate is under the leadership of the Ulul Bayt. Even if the oppressors do not want, Allah will complete their light. Peace, justice and fraternity will prevail all over the world. This Ummah will become united as soon as possible. This is the manifestation of Allah's divine mercy to Muslims. No cruel can prevent this. This is the promise of Allah in the realm. We must return from all our mistakes and unite together. We must clear the traps that Satan has added to religion, and live the Quran and Hadiths as they were originally the first day. We must prevent sectarian separations and groupings and clear bid'ah and superstitions as one heart. We have an immaculate faith, and we must distribute the divine miracle of Allah to the whole world, with all the technology and mass media. In every way that Allah will enter the house, and prepare the ground for the Islamization of the world and the coming of the Prophet Jesus. Today, it is not time for sectarianism, enmity, racism with each other, to consider each other unbelievers, to be divided into communities, groups and sections. It is time to see and correct our own mistakes. It is time to invite love and brotherhood and true Islam. Now, unite in the sanjak of the resolute Ikram. Know that our coming is Allah's order and it is better for you. Scholars, do not hinder the unity of Islam and draw the manifestation of Allah's kahar. There is no victory against Allah. Because of your cowardice and the disgrace of the Muslims, Satan has established such an empire in the world that Muslim states are occupied and exploited, or indirectly exploited through the Messiah Dajjal and money games. People are not aware that they are slaves to the devil. It is being destroyed by economic crises. Isn't it a day to break our chains and unite? How long will we wait quietly under the persecution of the tyrant? And in turn we will be watching the destruction. How long will his brother continue to kill his brother? How long will we watch the bodies of innocent babies who hit the beach? How long will we let children in Africa die of starvation? Being captured and tortured in East Turkestan, brutally burned in Arakan, Burma, cruelly shot in Palestine, murdered in Syria, destroyed in Iraq, disintegrated in Afghanistan. How long will we ignore these people's cry? How many million Muslims need to be killed for material exploitation? How much more cowardice and selfishness will we wait for the cue to come to us? Is it befitting Muslim morality to be a spectator to the murder of his brother? If you are silent, do not call yourself a Muslim. A Muslim never consents to persecution. While his brother is being destroyed, he does not sit silent. A Muslim will never shatter unity. Isn't it time to wake up, time to stand up for unity? Allahu Ta'ala has put absolute obligatory provisions in this case in the end times because you have not come to the union. The scholars of the Ummah either give up the mistake, unite in truth, or be destroyed by divine punishment, go to the bottom of hell. Now this Ummah is full of trouble, blood, tears, hatred and separation. The expected test of the end times began for each scholar of this Ummah. So far, those who know the absence of the caliphate, those who think of Allah's religion without ownership, and exceeding the limit, they should understand very well, Allah's religion is not unclaimed. The Caliphate of Muhammad, with the believers, with all his strength and youth, is standing in the last caliphate center in the Turkish country. Be afraid of a day when Teshubah and relics mercy not be accepted. Take refuge in Allah. This is the call of the Caliphate. Muslim states and people all over the world. Holy flag of the Prophet Muhammad was opened. I am the Hujjat of Allah with the proofs that no one can deny on earth. From the Iran to Pakistan, from the Caucasus to East Turkestan, from Egypt to Africa, from the Arabian Peninsula to Indonesia. All the world Muslim states should gather under the sanjak of the Caliphate of Muhammad. All state leaders should trust the president of this country, Tayyip Erdogan, and stand fearlessly behind him. Prepare for unity, fear from Allah, not helpless people. Don't you see, the devil has occupied the world. Since Messiah Dajjal knew that the unity movement had begun, he created a perception towards us in the minds. He launched television and cinema perception games in all media because he filled people against us with the puppets people and clergymen, in order not to complete the light of Allah. He makes black propaganda with people and with perception management, blurring people's minds. Can you no longer see the devil's war on the truth clearly in the world? We are not the soldiers of the blood, we are not the soldiers of the persecution, we are the soldiers of mercy and science. We all give up our mistakes and go straight ahead. We must bring peace, justice, and mercy to the world in unity. It should prevent the devil from showing Islam as a brutality with his friends. He must clear the distortion he has made in all minds, and bring the magnificent mercy and truth of true Islam into the heart of all humanity. Save the devil from dragging them to hell, treat humanity all over the world with mercy and we have to break down the prejudices and show the beauty of true Islam, the path of truth. All the people who always say the right and are afraid of Allah run to unity. Unwittingly, the scholar runs to the union with repentance. The scholar who wants to testify with the evidence of the truth, seeking the right, run to the union. Let the brother who truly believes in Allah run to unity. The Ummah of Muhammad of the world run to the alliance. Believers, on the start day of this divine action, deliver these videos, hadiths and omens to all the people you can afford. Lead the union of hope and unity of Islam that will flourish in the hearts of people. Soon, Allah will complete the light and unity, even if the oppressors do not want it. This is Allah's mercy and promise to believers. This dawah, from the Idlam mountains of China to the far end of the west, from Rome to Jerusalem, from Mecca to Medina, will spread from city to city, and the day when Muslims learn to become Muslim, this sanjak will be planted in the heart of the whole world. We have no secret communications. We have no place for doubt and bad thought. We have no presumption without wisdom and proof. We do not invite you blindly to a faith. We invite you to see that the divine promise is true, confirming the miracle that the Prophet Muhammad said. Our declaration is open to the Ummah and to all people. This is Islam's call for unity. This is the call of the Caliphate of Muhammad. It is fard for every member of the Ummah and for the scholars who respect the right. The true black sanjak are Khorasan in Turkey, the last caliphate based in Istanbul, the Anatolian side, at the beginning of the task is. Service staff and scholars can write to us via WhatsApp line and contact us. And witness all the miraculous signs that the Prophet Muhammad said. No doubt confidently. For the unity of the Ummah and to glorify the name of Allah in the whole universe. Work together in the way of Allah. You can be a part of the rise of Islam in the Mahdi case to complete the light of Allah. Now that everyone knows, the Caliphate Muhammad is standing upright. Today he was born from his ashes by divine command. I am Abu al-Qasim Imam Mustafa. I am at the head of my duty for the children of the Ummah until the last drop of my blood, so that the tears of the oppressed are calm and Islam will be united.